So what we're doing, I was going to talk a little bit about how I think Voltage Modular is so ideal for somebody who just wants to get started with virtual modular. And I already have a patch in here, but I'll set some stuff up from scratch real quick. So I'm using the workshop module, which is basically a full instrument. So you have an oscillator and a filter, and then it's going through some effects. Here's a saw. And here's a pulse. Your resonance. That's all pretty simple. And then I have a delay on here, and it's also going into a reverb, which for some reason the reverb's not opening for me, but that's not super important. So let's see, I haven't done this in a while. So in Voltage Modular, if you get the Nucleus bundle, that's like their starter bundle. Sorry, I just wanted to get my other computer up so I can see the video monitor. So if you have the Nucleus starter bundle from Voltage Modular, that's actually free. A couple years ago, I forget if it was 2018 maybe, I acquired Voltage Modular Nucleus for $9, and it was Black Friday. And it was pretty quick after that I ended up buying a bunch more stuff because I liked it so much. And it's really unlocked a lot for me with the breath controller, with the wind controller. And the reason I say that is because really the Cherry Audio software, and it started with Voltage Modular. At that time, that was the only offering that they had. They didn't have all these other plugins that they have now. And at that time, Voltage Modular, it just had the best MIDI control routing of about any synth I had ever used, plugin. So you could, have a minimum amount, a maximum amount. You could put a curve on the breath control. You could send it to multiple destinations. You could invert, start out maximum, and then as the breath increases, it goes down rather than up. There's just all these things, and there's a lot of other plugins that can't do half of those things. So that's why I really got excited about Voltage Modular right away when it came out. So I'm going to jump into my library, and I'm going to do like what's the easiest possible things I could do here. And I use the synth voice a lot because it sounds good and it's real easy. So there's a number now. Now this is in a bundle that's $39 right now. It was just on sale. I should have done this video a couple weeks ago. This bundle was probably on sale for like $13 a few weeks back. And it has the synth voice. It has the Roland DCO modules. So you can get the, Juno type sounds with it too. And these are nice because like the ones that are the full instrument ones that Cherry Audio has, they're normalized where you're automatically getting the MIDI and I want to delay. You're getting the MIDI input and everything. Or is there stereo delay? Oh, it doesn't matter. And I added a reverb. So I'm not going to connect the audio right away because what happens is when the filter's wide open, actually I can close the filter. When the filter's wide open, what it does is it'll blast you out until you've mapped breath to it. Okay, and there is a stereo in and out on the delay, so that's good. Yeah, with most of these things, you're going to start mono and then it splits into stereo. So this is a super simple patch. This is like really your basic bass or lead patch, depending on how much effects you have running. And it's very effective, works really good. You can use these all the time on any instrument. And what you're going to have is a saw lead, and you're going to have the filter being opened and closed by breath. Actually, I'm going to map breath before I connect the I might be speaking out of turn here. I probably have sound already. Yeah, I did. So the MIDI is automatically connected to this module. On the other modules, you actually have to drag the MIDI down and plug it in somewhere, but on this one you don't. So it's automatically connected. Um, Here's your rough oscillator frequency. There's a fine tune. So that's a really nice basic sound right there. That's your 4-pole filter, so 24 decibels per octave. You can adjust the resonance. What's fun sometimes is to map breadth to both the frequency and resonance. I'm not going to do that just yet. And I didn't even touch any of the controls on the two effects. So they're at whatever the default is. It's probably way too wet for what I would usually do. And if you notice, I didn't touch the envelope generator or any of that stuff. And the reason I didn't is because when you're opening and closing the filter with breath, that basically shapes the sound without actually needing a envelope generator. So this is your my basic lead patch if I'm using the synth voice. I'm going to adjust the I don't like the settings. So that's a basic sound. Like to me, that's kind of a 2600 saw lead kind of sound. Um, the easy way to switch it to the pulse is just to use the mixer control. So they're again the oscillators are normalized to go right to the filter. So all I did was I leveled up the this is the saw the first oscillator one, which is sending a saw, but you could change that because if you drag the pulse down here, now it's a pulse. Well, actually, I'll show it this way. Well, that's one way to do it, or the way I would typically do this is I just switch to the second oscillator because the default for the second oscillator is the pulse. So then if you want to, now I'm going to go back. Oh, I have the saw already. So now you got your two oscillator sound. An octave apart always works nice. So that's some basic. I'm going to call it semi-modular patching because when you're using the synth voice module, it's like a self-contained instrument by itself. So it's basically like having an Odyssey or something that you're dropping into Voltage Modular. Another nice feature of the filter here is you can switch it to 12 dB. So let me go back to the saw. Then it gets a lot more grainy sounding, kind of more of a raw sound. And that works really good for leads when you want it to cut even more. Um, you could also build patches using all the individual components, but then you get into where you have to have a gate, you have to have a pitch control, you have to have the pitch control scaled right to do the semitones or whatever you're doing, and all that stuff. And I have some patches that are set up that way, but I do actually, if I'm building a patch, especially if I was doing it where I'm playing live or something, what I'm going to always do is go to one of these self-contained ones and just drop it in there because it works so effectively and it's easy. Versus, let me show, where's one of the lead sounds that, I don't know what some of these are. I know I have a lot of real similar patch names. Oh, I don't want to save it. No. Okay, this is one that's, so this one's got a lot of little things going on. So the pitch is going to the glide first, and then it's going to the oscillator, so you can glide the pitch. I think the synth voice a module probably has glide built into it somewhere. I don't remember. So then these are going into the mixer and then the filter, and there's a separate amplifier. There's an envelope generator. We have the delay, we have the reverb. So it's kind of similar to really the other patch, except for the fact that it's all being done with the individual pieces. And then you can see there's all the virtual connecting cables everywhere. Yeah, it's so weird. I'm not getting anything hardly out of the delay. Oh, I have the delay turned all the way down. Hey, maybe that's why it's doing that. And I don't like the short delay. I like it a little over 300 milliseconds. And this is the free filter. So if you bought Nucleus, or not bought, if you downloaded the free Nucleus bundle, these are the filters, or the filters. Now I'm mixing all my stuff up. These are the oscillators that come with that. This is the filter. I don't recall if you get the glide control free or not. And I'm not sure if you get only the reverb or if you get the delay and the reverb. Yeah, the reverb was turned down on this one too. So this is the spring reverb. Maybe I should have just been using that. Yeah, it's okay. And then where we got connected here, so we have a saw and a pulse, and I guess that's they're both saw and a pulse. So it's two oscillators, saw and pulse. There's probably some pulse width um, modulation, that's what I was trying to say, happen. Let's see if when I blow. So if you look at the oscillator 2 there, when I blow, the pulse width changes. So there's just a little bit of pulse width modulation that's happening on there. And that's one of the things that with some of the other oscillator modules, there's different ways that these functions work. I don't recall if synth voice does that. Um, So Waverly Instruments did and this was on sale too when I grabbed it. They did a full module, full instrument module that's trying to think how I want to describe this one. It's kind of like a Prophet 5, but it's really more flexible. It's got a lot of nice features to it. And this is one, so the entire patch is one module. So it's like, I mean, if this was a standalone instrument, I'd probably own it because I like it a lot. And it's really pretty simple to set up. And so what we have going is the MIDI goes to the MIDI in. So I'm not using the gate and the pitch controls and all that separately. And then I have the stereo out going to the mains, so that the connections are really pretty simple. And so I'm just going to jump onto YouTube and see if anybody's commenting or anything, because stereo out going to the mains. Turn off my audio so it doesn't. And it'll just take a minute for the comments to load or whatever. Oh. Hey Santiago. Yeah, I don't usually interact with people in the chat too much. Sometimes when I'm streaming without a microphone, I'll type in the chat. But so this is Analogy. I haven't played this yet. I've been talking. So this is what this sounds like. So there's a lot of fun features with this. So I'm trying to remember where everything is. That's one thing with all of these different modules, is they all kind of have a different function. So you have the wave shape is where you're going to get, if it's a saw, or you can make it more of a square or whatever. And then there's a wave fold. So what I did was I took a saw wave on both of these, but then I was messing around with the wavefold to change the timbre of one of the oscillators. And so what I have is the modified oscillator, and then oscillator 2 is just a straight saw, but there's not that much of that. So the mixer's down here, so I'm mixing the two oscillators. I probably have the tuning dead on. I don't hardly have it detuned at all. I think the default, if you do initialize, the default comes up and the two oscillators are kind of detuned a little bit. And that's what I should really do. That's a good demonstration of how the things work, is if I start from scratch and start messing around with all the controls. But as you can see, I have the delay clicked over here and I have the reverb clicked. There's also a compressor. So really, for a single module that's basically a full instrument, this has everything that you would need for like a good performance instrument. And that's another thing that I like, just in general, I'm not talking about Voltage Modular now, is I love a synthesizer plugin where it's like everything is just all right there. And if you're doing live performance, the effects are right there, the filter's right there, you can change the type of filter. So I have this on 2-pass, but it also has a 4-pass. So it's a multi-mode filter, and then you also have the wave shaping or wave folding, actually both on this. So when we say wave shape, what we're talking about is, and this is something you see a lot more with the virtual analog, is you can have in between a saw and a triangle, or between a triangle and a pulse. It's not just one thing or not. And that's really nice. because it gives you more flexibility of the sound. Although for me, and it has to do with what records I probably listened to when I first got kind of interested in synthesizers, and it was stuff like whatever the early Elton John stuff. It was. Like, I don't know, Steve Miller Band. Who else was I listening to that used synthesizers? Well, there was some of the funky kind of stuff, like Ohio Players had synthesizers on there. I can't even think of everybody now. And then later, of course, it was like Jan Hammer, Jeff Beck, Herbie Hancock, people like that, George Duke, Weather Report. And where I was going with that is when you look at all those kind of like classic synth players, a lot of the instruments, it was just probably 2600 or a Mini Moog or something. So they are kind of a lot of the basic waveform things. You're not hearing some of the fancy newer things, but I do like having the ability to kind of get either sound, and that's a nice thing with this. I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything. Whenever I talk about stuff in videos, I'm just talking about kind of what I like about things. If there was a module that I don't like or don't use, I wouldn't talk about it. But I don't know how to say this. I'm a sucker for a good sale, and they had a lot of things that were like 33%. So like a 66% discount for a couple weeks. I think starting, or was that in October? Maybe it was in October. And it maybe ended in early November. I think that's how it went. So in October, they had this really good sale. And I didn't buy a lot of stuff. I grabbed a few things here and there. But I did add this module, and I added the one that I had open when I first was playing, which was that Workshop, which is, I think it's NRGZR78, is the developer, and it's like a Moog workstat, right? And that's a fun one because it's so super simple. There's almost like no controls on it. So it's like, okay, you got a saw, you got a square, and you got a filter, and you have to add the effects or whatever. But I like that because sometimes simpler is better. And I mean, if you listen to all those great Jan Hammer solos and stuff, he's either playing with like a square, a triangle, or a saw. I mean, it's not, there's not a lot of, I'm talking the early stuff, like the classic recordings in the 70s. That's what he's using. So if it worked then, it works now. And I'm using breath control, and what I've found is when you use simpler oscillator stuff or even single oscillator versus double, you can get more expression. And what I mean by that is, like if you took something like a DW8000, you put it in unison mode and everything is really detuned and fat or whatever, it's hard to get a really delicate articulation and expression. But if you drop this down to one oscillator, so I'm going to turn down oscillator one. Oh, I'm blowing into that while I talk. I'm going to turn down oscillator one completely, and I'm going to put the saw back on. I tend to like 4-pole more than 2-pole because I think it closes the filter more so you can get a darker sound. And my octave key button's a little sticky over here. I'm going to stick my fingernail in here and try to get it to work better. Yeah, it seems like there's a bit of aliasing maybe, but it's fine. It's not bothering me. So really, these are all simple kind of patching or programming things, and basic. Like anybody could do any of this stuff, and obviously the breath is adding a lot of expression because you're shaping the note with the breath, and then that's a big thing. I think a big advantage when you're using breath control with expression is you can really create the articulation and the envelope all with how you use the breath. So I'll demonstrate that real quick. So I'll go from kind of playing light and staccato to more powerful. So what I was just adjusting there, I forgot that I had this patched up. The filter has a envelope amount, and if you really want to start the note from 0, you have to have the envelope amount turned down. Otherwise you get a little bump on the attack, which I don't usually like because I can just do that myself with the breath. So a really nice thing, as long as I'm talking about the Waverly stuff, I have to do this. Shucks. I'm just going to do this in mono because I'm going to be lazy. So I'm adding a looper. So it's a loop recorder, which if you're not doing anything with the looper, it just passes through. Know if this is going to work or not. I'm going to see if I can map my foot switch real quick. Okay, I think I got it. Yes, I do. Perfect. And I'm going to map another foot switch to clear. There we go. So with this looper, if you're going to do basic looping stuff, so that's the module on the far right, you press loop to record, and you press loop again to set the loop length. And then if you press loop a third time, then it goes into overdub mode and you can overdub. Well, the easiest way is to demonstrate it now. and then clear will clear everything, and then stops the playback. Like yesterday I did a video and I set up a loop before I started the video, and then I hit stop, and then I started the video, I played a little introduction, and then I started everything, and then I had a pre-recorded kind of chant figure in the bass that I was noodling over. So let's see. Not real thrilled with that, but that'll work. So it'll be recording in a second. So I hit the button again so it'll stop overdubbing. Of course, the trick with doing loop gems is you want to have the parts where they're not in the same range that you would solo in. Now you can't just jump into a different patch for soloing, because what you would be doing is you would lose the modules here, including the looper. So I'm going to change the sound. Let's see, where am I at? So I'm going to unmap the resonance, and I'm going to switch this back to what oscillator am I using. So I'm oscillator 2. I'm going to switch this back to the square sound. The reason I'm doing that is I need to go into all the whatever orchestration considerations, but if you have a bunch of saw waves, whatever kind of pad sound maybe you're doing, anything like this, if you want something to stand out, if you have a contrasting timbre, it works better. So that's why I switched it to the square. It gets kind of old if you don't, keep changing textures. Okay, let's have some real fun here. So one of the things that I got really into with Voltage Modular at the very beginning was using it for effects patches. So what I mean is, like, I do a lot of things in a live host, which you can kind of use Voltage Modular as a live host if you have the core bundle, because it has a plugin host module. But what I would do is, in my live host, I would drop in a synthesizer that maybe wasn't good with breath control, and then I would drop in Voltage Modular and just add a filter, and then have other effects, whatever, after that. So I know I have so many of these patches and they all sound similar, but I don't see anything that says filter with effects. But oh, here you go. This one does. So it says. So what I'm going to do is this is an effects patch. So you would have the audio input going through this, which it would actually be my voice right now, because the audio, the microphone input is going into the filter, but it's closed, so you don't hear it. It'd be kind of real wild if I was doing that, but that isn't the objective of this demonstration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a basic effects patch. So it's 2 filters, hard pan left and right, and then we have a delay, we have a reverb, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in the plugin host module. And you could, actually I'm going to do the mini one because it's smaller. It's not real important. I love the plugin host module. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to unload groceries in a second here. Yeah, come on. But I'll get to this. Or will I? I'm using the touchpad on my computer, so you have to be on the right spot. Okay. And you do have to connect the MIDI. And I need to select a plugin. Actually, I probably should do VST. Now, this only works with 64-bit, but if you have bridged plugins, where's my good old Evol? That's like my favorite old one. So this is a 32-bit plugin that's been bridged. And it sounds really great. Yeah, I'm doing the display capture so you can see this. It sounds really great, but you can't map MIDI to any of the controls. And I don't know. Is the editor what I want? I don't know how to change patches on here. Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever we have is what we're going to get. Okay. I think this is going to work. Okay, we got sound. So what's happening? This is like a pluck sound. I just maxed out the sustain. I'm going to open this filter all the way up. So the reason I'm doing that is because you're running it through filters in Voltage Modular. This is a common thing I've done with other plugins too. Like you could take the old Synth One plugin, which is a really nice sounding plugin. I love Synth One. I mean, it's like 20 years old and it sounds so good. And what you could do, I should have done Synth One, is you could drop Synth One in here, and then I have patches that are, say, like saw to open, and what it is, it's like a saw lead where the filter's completely open. There's no envelopes, there's no nothing, and then so it's just like you're using the plugin almost like an oscillator, and then you're going into the filter. So now this should be a little bit better.